to you and go to the US. I can't rap or sing, and I don't have Cristiano Ronaldo as an investor. So I'm in a pretty fucked up situation. But I have Uniplaces, and that's pretty much what I want to explain to you. I'm 23 years old, so that's pretty the average. I think the average age in the room. So it's something that I can basically tell you what you guys can do. A year ago, I was pretty much in your situation. I just need to put the timer here, so I don't get too much of the time. So this is our new office. We're moving on the 1st of May. It's in Lisbon by Portugal. It's a really cool place. And I'm going to basically tell you the whole story behind Uniplaces. Uniplaces is a marketplace for student accommodation. I don't know if you've been in Erasmus, but if you have, and then you have to go to Berlin or London, and all the families have studied abroad, we all face the problem of where we're going to live. And we really want to tackle that issue, which is the booking.com for medium-term accommodation. So if you want to go somewhere, work or study for 6 months, we want to solve that. Pretty much an Airbnb or for student accommodation, and hopefully after that for workplaces and everything else. So, Europe, Asia, and the US. We were 3 founders when we started. Each of us were in just 3 different places. We didn't know really each other, so I actually I was doing a master's in Boston, and I flew to Shanghai to meet one of my co-founders, Miguel, who was leading Groupon at that time, and he was super excited. And for me, it was really quite a challenge thing, because I wanted to recruit a guy to join me in Portugal, but he was running Groupon, one of the fastest growing companies. It was a huge challenge, and I think that's the first challenge of any entrepreneur, is to get the team right. And I completely agree. It's like getting the founders is probably one of the toughest things you can do. So we actually managed to convince everyone to fly from London, Beijing, and I was flying from Boston, to go there. Nogueira, which is actually a town north of Vienna Castelo. That place is actually there may be 1,000 people there. The thing is, I had a house, and I really didn't have a lot of money in my pocket. And basically what we said is, okay guys, you guys have some savings. I didn't have a lot of cash, so I had to go to my house, convince them to join. The pool was pretty something good for them. They didn't have that in Beijing or London. And the weather was actually okay. That was September 2011. So what we decided is, let's work from my house. We're not going to have a salary for the next maybe 6 to 8 months. And we're going to bootstrap. We didn't have any idea then. What we did actually, we went to Startup Pirates. So we were probably, we were in the first edition of Startup Pirates. It was a lot of fun, but we actually did it for a whole week. I think we came up with 4 different companies at the time. 4 different projects actually, not really companies. But what happened was, we went from Vienna because the guys were living in Beijing, I was living in Boston, and I really didn't like small towns, so I actually had to move to somewhere bigger. So I moved to Porto, which was actually my hometown. Again, living in my parents' house. And I actually had to look for a flat for my housemates, and the guys were near Upetec, which is an incubator we're still based at. And the guy said, okay, look for a house with friends, go to the trees. It was near university. And that was when, okay, guys, how did all the students look for a house in Portugal? They had to go to the trees. And we said, okay, that is fucked up. There has to be a marketplace to really solve that issue. So we started working on that. We went to Startup Week in Portugal, we won it, and that was pretty cool. We got 1,000 euros, which allowed us to pretty much build a prototype. And the first thing we did after we left Startup Weekend was to find really how big was this market. And I think I usually say that the team is the most important thing. I actually think market is probably the most important thing. The team comes second, product comes third. And the market is, okay, what's happening to the market? Is it going up or going down? If you go to VCs, you usually need $1 billion market. You need to somehow find a way to tell a VC that you have $1 billion company. And the numbers were these. And what was interesting, the next 10 years, the number of students is going to double. And the number of student mobility is actually increasing. Erasmus is growing. A lot of students are coming from Asia to Europe, and a lot of Europeans and Asians are actually going to Latin America. Brazil is exploding. They don't have any student accommodation. So that was an interesting thing to tackle. And 4 million students, there are 4 million student homes, and we thought actually if we did a really efficient marketplace, as Airbnb did, Airbnb disrupted hotels. We really think that we can actually create a market for student homes. Because it's actually, There's a lot of people, if you think about Airbnb is very short term. I can actually guarantee someone that has a house, for example, a lot of rented houses in Portugal, and I can guarantee them that for 9 to 10 months out of the 12 months, they're going to have someone staying there. And then I can actually help them market those properties during summer. So it was a good market. The first thing we did, launch a prototype. And I think that's the main lesson. I spent maybe 1,100 euros. WordPress template, a bit of Word, a bit of design, and I put it online. We made cash on the first 2 or 3 hours, I think. And that really proved the model, because there was people actually looking for this kind of stuff. We made a partnership with the Faculty of Medicine. We just put it there, and we saw how it worked. The website actually sucked. It was a WordPress, so we actually had to create listings as you're creating a blog post, but we almost had maybe 1,000 listings. We went to, then from Porto, we actually met and started the bootcamp. The jury was João Vasconcelos. I didn't know João at that time, but he told me there was a crazy content coming up in Lisbon, which I hated Lisbon because I was from Porto. So I had to hate it, but I was from Benfica, which is pretty cool. So let's move to Lisbon. Because João said, there's a Startup Lisboa thing is coming up, a lot of startups are joining, and I said, maybe that's cool. And it was free space at the time. So, again, going after free space. We joined Startup Lisboa with all these guys. I think we were probably the second company Startup Lisboa, so we didn't have to go through the horrible application process, apparently. I met the guy, and then pretty much joined Startup Lisboa. A lot of cool guys there, not a lot of girls. I think now it's improving. So that's actually one of the criteria to get in there. And then the problem was we had 3 founders. All the 3 founders were amazing business people. And one guy, he could code, but he wasn't a great coder. So actually one of the challenges was actually, we need to do a web startup, so we need a CTO. We need someone that actually understands technology. I didn't actually. I can't really install any PC or something like that. So I got this guy. He's a crazy motherfucker. But he's Leo, he's 32 years old, and he was working out of ARM in Cambridge. And the guy was doing like all the server side of Facebook and stuff, building microprocessors for the iPhone. And the guy was genius, but it's really hard to talk to an engineer. Imagine a 22-year-old at that time, studying business, and trying to convince that this guy, people that know him, he's really crazy. But Einstein was crazy as well. And the guy knows a lot about technology. He can't really speak or communicate that well. So imagine me convincing a 32-year-old that had a Russian wife that needed a visa to come to Portugal to join me in Porto, and then he found out somewhere in the process that actually he was moving to Lisbon, not Porto. That was a whole mess, but he joined. And the Startup Lisboa, I think, actually helped a lot. He had the sea view, we got the 4th floor, so it was pretty cool. And the first thing, like the first lesson for you guys is sharing everything solves their issues. They don't want to care about anything else. And really, the first thing we learned is whoa your customers. What we're actually doing, I'm actually doing letters, signing letters. This was supposed to be this week, that wasn't here. To actually send to the top 20 lenders we have in Portugal and the top 20 lenders we have in the UK, saying thank you for supporting us. Really build trust and relationship with those guys, because the product will suck in the first month. There will be lack of features. Maybe there will be bugs on the website, but if you actually build a relationship with them, they will say, okay, these guys are starting, they will understand, they love me, so let me give them some trust. And I think that was probably the most important thing that we've done. We really focused in the beginning. We thought it was like to be everywhere, to have as many customers as possible, and we really changed the idea of, instead of having 100 customers that kind of like you, really have 10 that pay for it. And I think that's the most important thing. Measure everything. The first prototype we did, we had more than 150,000 page views, or basically around 20,000 unique visitors a month, and we didn't measure it. So really guys, measure everything you do, because failure is only a lesson, is only important if you can learn from it. But how can you learn if you don't measure and you don't know what's going on? So use KISS measures. Use Mixpanel, use Google Analytics, and really do business intelligence out of that. Understand why João can't go to the checkout on Uniplaces. Really understand what's going wrong on the website. Maybe the colors are wrong, but really you need to test that and you need to measure that. And I didn't measure that in the beginning. Now we spend actually maybe 180 euros every month on just measuring stuff, tracking stuff. Don't scale too early. It is actually sexy, And we have 3 business co-founders. So for us, João was, man, guys, you need to go everywhere. We were in Brazil, we launched in Chile, we launched in the UK, and to be fair, we didn't have product market fit. So really focus in the beginning to get the model right. Once you have it right, then you can scale. Learn how to pitch, guys. And seriously, we suck at it. And it's not really learning how to pitch to investors. That is important, to be fair, that's not even the most important for me. Learn how to pitch to the clients. Learn how to pitch to people that are going to pay for it. And it's not only me. It's actually, I'm teaching Leo how to pitch to people. Leo, a business guy that's actually building the product, I'm teaching him how to sell the product he's building. Because if he really understands how customers are like, what are the challenges of the customers, he's going to build a better product. I'm not going to build the product. I'm going to tell Leo how to build it. But if he can learn that, that's way better. And the final and last is make a big plan. And really break it down to small things. That's a really amazing lesson. But I'm going to tell you what is actually the outcome of that. Is, for example, for us, we didn't have any morning calls. We called them the standard calls. So what happened was, okay, a startup is a very cool place to. So you guys can just come in whenever you want. Just come to the office, do your stuff, and go home. What we actually figured out was, like, when you started, you need a lot of structure. You can't plan what's going to happen the next year. You can plan what you're going to do in the next month. So what we actually started doing is morning calls every day at 9 a.m. And the whole team had 20 minutes. We had 20 minutes to really tell everyone what everyone was doing. And we pretty much had a lot more of share of understanding. I want to actually understand what my senior engineer is building. And he knows why I'm here, or how does what I'm doing today impacts my results in the month. So really plan stuff well, and I think that's the most important thing. That's it. Believe and you can ask me. Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to know whether you have some sort of criteria when choosing the apartments you place on your website. And if you do have that criteria, if you'd like to transform that into a stamp, like TripAdvisor or something,
exactly.
To a community.
So in the beginning, we didn't. So we just wanted to grow, and get as many properties in the platform. When we realized we're not actually adding value to the market. And when we have exclusive partnerships with universities, and that's really our key distributor. And what they told us is, okay, I want to endorse you as the accommodation partner of the university. For example, pretty much we have 28 partners in Portugal and a few in London now. And they said, I only endorse you if I believe the quality of the houses. So what we're actually doing, something on the big plan stuff, is you have to do unscalable things to make a scalable business. Think of Airbnb, for example. They actually take photos to every single house on the platform. So what we actually decided to do, we're going to verify every single house. So no house is on the platform if we don't verify. We're actually learning now how to scale that. But our initial thing is we verify every single house on the platform. And then we build trust, because the most important thing is people only pay in advance. The biggest important changing behavior that we're trying is for you to book a house for 6 months in advance before you go into the country. And that really has to change. Like Airbnb, they have to change the mentality of me going to somewhere else, to someone's house that I don't know, and staying in someone's room. And that behavior is changing now. And I really want to change the behavior of you booking a place for 6 months in advance. And verifying the house is a good way to build trust. Any more questions?